Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take the source material you've shared with us, articles, notes, whatever you've got, and we really dig in.
Mm-hmm.
We pull out the key insights, the surprising bits, and help you see how it all connects. Think of it as your personalized briefing.
Exactly. We're here to navigate this information with you, going beyond just the surface level to get at the why and the so what.
And today, we're diving into excerpts from Brenda Jackson's novel Eternally Yours. Our mission: to unpack the really complex dynamics between the main characters.
Yeah, track their development, which is sometimes quite surprising.
And see how their personal histories, their families kind of weave together to drive the story.
Right. We're not just doing a plot summary here. We want to get into their heads, understand their motivations, their fears.
Why they do what they do.
Precisely. And how these different threads pull together. By the end, you should feel like you really get this narrative deep down.
Okay, let's start with the main players. Clayton and Syneda. First up, Clayton Madaris. She's a lawyer, part of this big, well-known family.
The Madaris family.
Prominent. And the text tells us right off the bat, he's the womanizer. Enjoying the opposite sex, as it puts it, since he was 16. It's clearly framed as his style.
But interestingly, the story opens with him feeling different, suddenly not interested in his usual affairs.
Yeah, having these foolish thoughts about wanting something steady.
Which is totally against his established character, right? So right away, there's this internal conflict set up. It makes you wonder what's going on.
Again, there's Syneda Walters, also an attorney, and she's best friends with Lauren Madaris.
Clayton's sister-in-law. Important connection there.
Definitely. Syneda is described as very professional, elegantly groomed. But when we first see her, it's quite a contrast.
Yeah, it's striking. Tear-stained face, bruises. It immediately tells you there's a difficult backstory, something painful, maybe even violent has happened recently.
And that image really sticks with you, especially when you see her professional side, like with her client, Mary Armstrong, who's dealing with domestic abuse.
Oh, absolutely. Syneda is incredibly firm there. She asks these really pointed questions like, how can a man who claims he loves a woman physically hurt her?
How can a woman who cares anything about herself let him do it? Powerful stuff.
And her advice is blunt. Counseling, press charges, no messing around.
And she has that line, don't ever believe you deserve to be beaten. No one deserves that.
It feels like it comes from somewhere deep,
It absolutely does. And later we find out why. We learn she grew up as a foster child.
Right, with Nora and Paul Phillips.
And she carries these lifelong insecurities, specifically tied to being rejected by her biological father. So that strength, you see, is built on top of some real vulnerability about abandonment.
So you've got this guy, the lifelong bachelor, suddenly restless, and this really strong woman with these hidden wounds from her past. It's quite a setup.
It really is. And then comes this unexpected trip to Florida.
Which sounds less like a romantic getaway and more like, well, like they're thrown together.
Pretty much. Clayton offers her the trip, but their dynamic's starting out. It's all arguments. Yeah, the text says they argued boarding the plane.
He won't let her pay him back.
She's glaring, saying, I could afford to pay my own way. It's not exactly lovey-dovey.
Not at all. But despite the friction, they share the condo, they do things together. They even build a sandcastle, which is kind of sweet amidst the arguing.
And it's during this trip that Clayton starts to, well, change quite dramatically.
There are a couple of key moments the text flags. One is the bikini moment.
Ah, yeah.
He sees her by the pool, and okay, there's a physical reaction, heat flowing, all that. Pretty standard attraction. But then there's this other feeling that hits him immediately. Possessiveness.
Okay, that's the interesting part.
Right. He didn't like the other men looking at her. That's more than just thinking she looks good. It's territorial. A big shift for him.
And we see that again later, right? When they're dancing.
Yep. Some guy tries to cut in, basically, taps him to get to Syneda. And Clayton gets really jealous.
How does he handle that?
He apologizes later, which is something, but his explanation is revealing. He says he behaved like a jerk, but I guess I'm so used to eyeing women myself that I know what goes through other men's minds.
Ah, so he sees other men's interest as predatory because that's how he's always operated.
Kind of seems that way. And he says, I don't want them thinking about you that way. He positions himself as her protector. Again, a huge leap from his usual detached style.
And Syneda, is she just observing all this?
No, she's definitely affected too. She feels a confusing rush of desire. She's unsettled by him, battling these strange feelings.
So much so that she needs space.
Exactly. She suggests a do your own thing day just to try and sort through it all.
Which then leads to her making a pretty bold move. Very in character for her, it seems.
Oh, yeah. Described as upfront, candid, and straight to the point, she proposes an affair.
Wow. Okay.
A short, fulfilling, and mutually satisfying affair. Maybe trying to keep control. Define the terms before things get too messy.
Seems plausible.
Yeah.
And this leads to intimacy and another big reveal.
Yeah.
This time about her.
Right. Turns out, Syneda is a virgin at 28.
And Clayton's reaction.
He's shocked, blown away. He actually says, "What? That's stupid," which, reveals his own assumptions.
But Syneda pushes back hard.
Oh, absolutely. It's a fantastic moment. She basically says, having modern ideals doesn't mean throwing away your values. I make my own decisions when it concerns my body.
Yeah.
Why do women have to prove anything anyway? Why can't a man do the proving for a change? Just completely challenges his worldview.
Does it land? Does he get it?
It seems to. The text says he apologizes, says it's hard to believe, but he does believe her. And this seems like a turning point for how he sees her.
Not just physically desirable anymore.
Exactly. He starts appreciating her fun-loving nature, her intelligence and sensitivity. He's actually thinking about, a relationship with her.
Even wonders how he'll survive it, because she's definitely a handful.
Right. And these new feelings, possessive, protective, vulnerable, they're strange to him, but somehow quickly acceptable. That has definitely gotten under his skin. Deep feelings exposed.
So Florida clearly changed things. What happens when they get back to their normal lives?
Well, Clayton goes back to Texas, and he's a mess. The text says he's in knots.
Worried she's having second thoughts.
Totally. He's trying not to think about needing her and wanting her, feeling physical tremors days later. This isn't his usual love him and leave him routine. He's hooked.
And Syneda, back in New York.
She gets this pretty significant gesture from him. A dozen roses for each day we spent together, signed simply, Clayton.
That's quite a statement.
It is. And her reaction, shaking hand, quick heartbeat, smiling, shows it means something to her, too. This wasn't just a fling.
Meanwhile, she's back to her demanding job. The Cassie Drayton case comes up again.
Right. Young woman, Cassie, in love with Larry Morgan, but her wealthy father disapproves because Larry's not from their social class. Classic conflict.
And this really hits home for Syneda, doesn't it?
Yeah, the text mentions a crack in Syneda's heart widened. Her empathy kicks in.
She gives Cassie more time, even though it means her firm loses the client.
It shows where her priorities lie sometimes. Justice and empathy over pure business. And we also see Larry Morgan stepping up, refusing to let Cassie's father dictate things about the baby.
And this is where we get that hint about Clayton playing guardian angel.
Exactly. Larry finds a good job at Remington Oil, came highly recommended, but he doesn't know by who. He calls the person his guardian angel.
And Syneda suspects Clayton.
Well, the listener knows, or suspects, because earlier text mentioned Clayton talking to Cynthia Remington about a job referral.
Ah, okay. Connecting the dots.
Yep. It strongly implies Clayton used his connections to help Larry, likely because he knew how much the case mattered to Syneda.
Wow, okay, so he's not just feeling things, he's doing things.
Yeah.
Quietly behind the scenes.
It's a really telling action. It shows his protectiveness isn't just talk. It's translating into real support for her world. That's a big step in his transformation.
These developing feelings, though, they get tested when Syneda visits Texas again, right? For that big Madaris family party.
Oh, yeah. The Senator Lansing party. And you really get a sense of how huge and tight-knit the Madaris clan is.
And they notice something's up with Clayton.
Immediately. His sisters, Katie and Tracy, tease him about being scarce, asking about his trips.
And Syneda's reaction.
She's feeling the pressure. Stomach was in knots, worried they suspect something. It taps right into her fear of losing this family connection she values so much.
And Clayton's possessiveness. It flares up again. In a weird way.
In a really weird way. Another guy at the party, Bernard Wilson, expresses interest in Syneda, tells Clayton, "She's gorgeous. I've had my eyes on her all night."
Okay, standard party stuff. How does Clayton react?
He completely loses it, but instead of being overtly aggressive, he starts making up these ridiculous lies about Syneda to deter the guy.
Lies? Like what?
Outlandish stuff. That she used to be almost 100 pounds heavier, that the weight doesn't stay off, that her hair isn't natural. Just bizarre.
That's insane. How do his brothers react?
Dex and Justin are right there, and they're stunned. Dex nearly choked. He's like, "What?" And he predicts, totally accurately, when Syneda finds out about those lies, she's gonna give you hell.
You think?
Oh, yeah. Justin tries to be the voice of reason, saying there's more to a person than looks, but Clayton is just spiraling in his jealousy.
It really shows he's still figuring out how to handle these intense feelings, doesn't it? Like, his emotional tools aren't quite up to the job yet.
Definitely. It's possessiveness mixed with panic, maybe? And this party also brings Senator Lansing, his aide Braxter Montgomery, and Celeste Rogers back into the picture.
That subplot.
Yep, seems separate, but it's laying the groundwork for a major revelation later on.
Okay, so after the party weirdness, Clayton and Syneda keep seeing each other. Things are getting more serious.
Seems like it. The text says their time together seems so natural and so right. Syneda sees the positive changes Clayton was responsible for in her life.
But she's still hesitant to fully embrace it.
Yeah, she's trying not to think about how much he was beginning to mean to her, still guarding herself.
And Clayton senses this shift, this deepening, and wants to take the next step.
He does. He suggests they stop sneaking around, tell his family. He feels they're ready.
But that's the exact thing Syneda fears most.
Precisely. Her reaction is immediate and strong. No. She voices that deep-seated fear of losing the Madaris family, calling them the closest thing to a real family that I've ever had.
It all comes back to that fear of abandonment from her past.
Absolutely. Clayton says he understands why she's scared, but he doesn't agree they should hide. He clarifies, me understanding certain things isn't the same thing as me endorsing them.
He thought he'd helped her move past some of those fears.
Yeah, especially the idea that his family wouldn't accept her. He hoped he'd put those misconceived notions to rest.
But she can't risk it.
No. Her chin trembles. She says she just can't take any chances. It's heartbreaking, really.
And Clayton?
He reaches his limit, it seems. Frustrated, maybe hurt that she can't trust him or his family enough, he just leaves. Picks up his bags, walks out.
Leaving Syneda in tears. A real low point.
A very painful separation. And you see the fallout for both of them.
How does Clayton handle it?
Not well. Justin and Dex find him later. His apartment's a mess. He looks rough around the edges.
Acting like a lovesick puppy?
Pretty much. Listening to super sad breakup songs like The Track of My Tears, What Becomes of a Broken Heart. His brothers immediately know there's trouble in paradise.
And Syneda?
She's struggling too, wondering about him, annoyed with herself for caring so much, but then she has this moment of clarity.
The realization.
Yeah. She loved him. Just admits it to herself. The thought of him being with someone else hurts deeply. She reflects on everything he was, to her friend, mentor, lover, all lost now.
She realizes they can't just go back to being friends.
No, she was only fooling herself. But then she has a real breakthrough.
Where does this happen?
At her mother's grave. It's this very emotional scene where she finally confronts all that past pain, the abandonment.
And find some peace.
Acceptance, maybe? Agency, too? She cries, she talks it out, and she makes resolution. She admits, I love him, Clayton. I love him very much. And one day soon, I'm going to tell him just how I feel. It's a huge step for her.
Wow. So she's ready to overcome those fears. Meanwhile, that other plot line is bubbling up. The Senator Lansing one.
Right. While Syneda's having this personal epiphany, things are moving fast there. Celeste Rogers is still investigating the senator, and specifically his link to Syneda.
And Braxter, the aide she was using, finds out.
He does. Overhears her talking to a PI, realizes he was just a tool, a setup.
Ouch, what does he do?
He goes straight to Senator Lansing and tells him Celeste is digging into both of them, trying to connect the dots between Lansing and Syneda.
Okay, so that's heating up. And at the same time, Clayton's private investigator is still looking for Syneda's father.
Yes, Alexander Maxwell, Alex. And he hits the jackpot, but it's complicated. He finds Clara Boyd, the friend of Syneda's mother, Janeda. And Clara confesses she lied years ago.
Lied about what?
About contacting Syneda's father. She did contact him when Janeda died, but the call was intercepted by the father's own father.
Whoa, the grandfather.
Yep. He paid Clara to disappear and, crucially, to never reveal his son's name, to keep Syneda's existence a secret from her father and the world.
So Syneda wasn't abandoned by her father. He never even knew.
Exactly. And the identity of the father is the massive twist.
Who is it?
Cynthia Remington, head of Remington Oil.
Get out. The guy Clayton knows. The guy who maybe gave Larry Morgan the job.
The very same. Clayton is absolutely speechless. Alex calls it hell-shocked. And they notice the resemblance is uncanny. She's the spitting image of her father.
This changes everything for Syneda's story. How does Cynthia react when he finds out?
Senator Lansing tells him, and Cynthia is overwhelmed. Joy at having a daughter, deep sorrow for the lost 28 years, and just fury at his father's downright deceit and betrayal.
He loved Syneda's mother, Janeda.
Deeply, the text emphasizes, despite the challenges of an interracial relationship back then, he's enraged that his child was raised by strangers because of his father's actions.
So Syneda's core wound, the belief she was rejected, it was based on a lie. She was never abandoned by choice.
Never. It's a profound shift in her narrative. And now the challenge is bringing them together.
How do they handle that? It needs to be done carefully, right?
Yeah.
Given her history.
Absolutely. Clayton steps up again. He understands the stakes. He plans for them to meet at Sintel's ranch over the weekend.
Does he trap Sintel?
Crucially, yes. He tells Sintel everything about Syneda's history, her deep-seated fears of rejection and abandonment, stressing how sensitive this reveal needs to be.
Smart. So how does the meeting go down?
Clayton brings Syneda to the ranch, pretending it's a business meeting with Sintel. Senator Lansing is there too.
And Sintel tells her.
He does. He tells her the whole story.
Yeah.
About his love for Janeda, about the phone call about her death that he never received because his father intercepted it.
He makes it clear he would have come for her.
Unequivocally, he says, there's no way that had I gotten that phone call, I would not have come for my daughter. He emphasizes his love for Janeda and his desire to have been there.
How does Syneda take it?
It's overwhelming. She's shocked. Her fingers turn to ice. Tears flowing. She's initially frozen.
Well, afterwards.
They talk for hours, and she finds closure. She realizes the narrative she lived with, that her father didn't want her, was completely false. It was all lies.
She understands he loved her mother.
Deeply. And they start figuring out practical things like how to handle the inevitable media storm when this news breaks.
So this reunion, this truth, it must free her up emotionally in a huge way.
It seems to pave the way for the final steps in her journey with Clayton. Back in Houston, things are good between them.
Mm-hmm.
And after they've made love, in that intimate space, Clayton proposes. Properly this time.
With a ring.
Oh, yes, a 3-carat diamond ring.
Wow. And Syneda's reaction, is she finally all in?
She loves the ring, but there's still that flicker of vulnerability. She asks him, are you sure? Still testing, even now.
Maybe just needing that final reassurance. And Clayton gives it to her. He directly references her past, the 18 years of doubt and pain from another man she had wanted to believe in.
Acknowledging the root of her fear.
Exactly. And then he makes his own promise. You're the woman I've been waiting for all my life. I want to give you my name, give you my babies, be a good husband and a good father. It's exactly what she needed to hear, countering that old wound.
And she accepts.
She does. They announce it at the big Madaris Thanksgiving dinner.
How does the family take it?
Initial surprise and shock, but then total acceptance and happiness for them. Katie thinks it's a joke at first. And Raymond admits he saw them looking cozy in Atlanta months ago.
So the family suspected anyway.
Some of them, yeah. They plan a June wedding. Syneda has practical reasons for the timing, finishing cases, finding a job in Houston, waiting for her friend's babies and Christy's return.
She's moving to Houston then, choosing him, choosing that future. Absolutely. They pick the wedding party, Lauren, Caitlin, the sisters, Felicia. It's all happening.
And the wedding day itself. Any highlights?
Oh, plenty of classic Madaris moments. Clayton is a bundle of nerves, getting teased by his brothers.
Does he follow tradition about not seeing the bride?
Nope. He defies Grandma Madaris, sneaks a kiss with Syneda beforehand, prompting Grandma to threaten to have the door broken down.
Love it.
And Syneda. She walks down the aisle with Sintel, her father. He whispers how unfair the lost years feel. It's poignant.
And Clayton at the altar.
He can't contain himself, leans down and kisses her before the official part, ignoring his grandmother's, "Lordy, the boy wasn't supposed to do that."
He's just overcome.
Totally. After they're pronounced husband and wife, he says, "I love you, Mrs. Madaris," and just keeps kissing her, even when the minister tries to stop him. Pure joy.
Any fun reception moments?
The bouquet toss. Grandma Madaris physically pulls Felicia Laverne out of the crowd.
Why?
Because Felicia's had 2 failed marriages, and Grandma declares she did not need a third.
Oh my goodness, Grandma Madaris is a force.
Isn't she? Syneda tries to aim for Christy to tease the single Madaris brothers, but it ends up going to Corinthians Avery instead.
And there's a mention of Jake and Diamond's secret marriage.
Yeah, just a brief contrast. Their private elopement versus Syneda's very public wedding, and the media attention around her being Sintel Remington's daughter. Different paths within the family.
So the story ends with them truly together.
Absolutely. With that feeling of being eternally his and he was eternally hers. Forever. And crucially, the text says that under the onslaught of Clayton's love, Syneda's past fears and pains have finally receded.
What a journey. Okay, so stepping back from these excerpts, what's the big picture here?
We've really traced this incredible arc, haven't we? From two people who were almost antagonists
Definitely sparks, but also friction.
through this undeniable connection that forces them both to change, confronting really deep-seated fears tied to their pasts.
Especially Suneda's abandonment issues and Clayton's whole identity as a womanizer.
Right, and uncovering these huge family secrets that ultimately allow for healing and closure. It's quite the transformation for both of them.
It really speaks to, I think, the power of love. Not just romantic love, but the love that pushes you to confront yourself and grow.
Absolutely. It shows how love can change ingrained patterns, like Clayton's, and how it can create a safe space to heal old wounds, like Suneda's.
And the impact of secrets. Wow. How one lie, one act of betrayal by Sintel's father, echoed down through decades, shaping Suneda's entire life.
It underscores the courage it takes to trust again after being hurt or believing you were hurt, and maybe that's sometimes the person you least expect
The one who seems all wrong for you initially.
is the one who actually unlocks something deep inside and changes everything.
So for you listening, why does diving into a story like this matter? What's the takeaway?
Well, I think it touches on things we all grapple with, right? How our past experiences, especially around family and rejection, really do shape who we become and how we approach relationships.
It shows how vital communication is and how damaging secrets and deception can be even across generations.
Definitely. But it also offers hope. It shows that finding truth, finding closure, even years later, can genuinely allow you to move forward and embrace happiness. It's never too late for healing, perhaps.
And it leaves us with a couple of things to chew on, maybe. Thinking about Syneda, how much of her initial pushing Clayton away was conscious self-protection versus maybe an unconscious fear of vulnerability, possibly echoing how her mother might have felt with Sentel.
That's a fascinating question. Was there a pattern she was unknowingly repeating, born out of fear? And conversely, what does Clayton's 180-degree turn from serial dater to utterly devoted husband tell us? Is it just about finding the one, or is it about finding someone who sees past your defenses and meets those unmet needs you didn't even know you had, forcing you to become the person you were maybe meant to be?